The Atlanta Falcons have had probably the most interesting offseason by any team this year. And to be completely honest with you guys, I really wasn't a huge fan of it at first, but after doing some more research and thinking, I'm starting to think that it was one of the best. So we all know at the beginning of the offseason, they hired Raheem Morris to be their head coach, who most recently served as the defensive coordinator for the LA Rams. Morris was also the head coach of the Buccaneers from 2009 to 2011, where he had a 17-31 record. He also previously spent time on the Falcons coaching staff, and he was the interim head coach in 2020 after they fired Dan Quinn. I and many others were immediately skeptical of this signing, and to be completely honest, I still am. They passed up on guys like Mike Vrabel and Bill Belichick to hire him, but I understand why they did. He's a familiar face for the team's owner, Arthur Blank, so if they weren't completely in love with all of the other candidates, might as well stick with the guy who you already know. But probably their most notable free agent signing was Kirk Cousins. They signed the former Vikings quarterback to a 4-year, $180 million deal. $100 million of that is guaranteed. Now obviously, this was a pretty risky move given that Cousins is 36 years old and coming off of a torn Achilles. And not only is Kirk Cousins getting older and coming off of a major injury, he also only has one playoff victory in 12 seasons. And signing a veteran quarterback to that lucrative of a contract signals that the Falcons organization is going all in on winning a Super Bowl. But are we actually sure that Kirk Cousins is the kind of guy who can lead a team to a championship? Me personally, I think he can. If you look at his playoff stats, they're actually not that bad despite him being 1-3 as a starter. He averages 254 yards per game through the air and has thrown 5 touchdowns to 1 interception. His team has also allowed an average of just over 28 points per game in those 4 games. So there's really just not much you can do about that. I do believe that given the right team, that Kirk Cousins is a quarterback who can lead a team to a Super Bowl victory. So obviously, with that said, I think Kirk Cousins was a great signing for the Falcons. This is a team that has gone 7-10 for the past 3 consecutive years in a row, and a big part of that has been poor quarterback play. Desmond Ridder was simply one of the worst quarterbacks in the NFL last year. The Falcons ranked in the bottom 10 in terms of passing yards and passing touchdowns, and they were also in the top 10 in terms of interceptions. That's not exactly a good combination. So the addition of Kirk Cousins was much needed for Atlanta. But adding Big Kirko wasn't the only big move that the Falcons have made. Defensively, they addressed some huge needs as well. Last year, the Falcons ranked 21st in the NFL in terms of sacks, and this team has not had a player record double-digit sacks since Vic Beasley did it in 2016. So they just recently went out and traded for Patriots edge rusher Matthew Judon. In 2021 and 2022, Judon recorded a total of 28 sacks, but last season, he tore his bicep in week 4 against the Cowboys and missed the remainder of the season. But when healthy, Judon is a very solid pass rusher that can help this defense. The Falcons secondary also had some troubles last year. They were not great at forcing turnovers for their offense. The Falcons had just 8 interceptions in 2023, which was tied for 28th in the NFL. So to address that need, they went out and signed all-pro safety Justin Simmons. The Falcons were already a team with a solid defense. They just needed to add some extra playmakers to help them excel, and I think the recent addition of Simmons and Matt Judon will help them out. Now, the Falcons did catch a lot of slack for their draft, more specifically their first-round pick. I myself even made a video after the draft explaining why this pick made no sense. But in hindsight, I think it was a pretty good pick. So for those of you who don't know or have been living under a rock for the past couple of months, the Atlanta Falcons shockingly took Michael Penix with the 8th overall pick. And immediately I was thinking, this makes absolutely no sense. They should have taken Rome Odunze or someone that was going to help them win a championship this year rather than Michael Penix, who's probably not even going to touch the field for a couple of years. It felt like they were a team stuck between trying to win now and build for the future. But now that I think about it, I don't think there's anything wrong with it. The Falcons will most likely not be drafting in the top 10 again with Kirk Cousins as their quarterback. And as I mentioned earlier, Cousins is 36 now. He's not exactly a spring chicken when it comes to the NFL. So in a quarterback-heavy draft class, the Falcons fell in love with a player who I actually think is very good in Michael Penix, so they figured, why not take the quarterback of the future right now? Because they're probably not going to get many chances to do so if Kirk Cousins is going to come in and win a lot of games for them. I actually, in hindsight, think it was a great decision. This team also has a lot of young pieces on offense. Between Bijan Robinson, Drake London, and Kyle Pitts, all of these guys are still going to be in their primes after Kirk Cousins either retires or leaves Atlanta. But now they can develop Penix, let him develop chemistry with the players and this coaching staff, and then in 3 years, when Kirk Cousins is ready to move on, seamlessly bring him into the starting role. And so that way, they're still going to be a competitive team and probably won't have to go through a whole rebuilding phase. Overall, this was a great move by the Falcons to help give them more stability moving forward. And I know they're kind of catching a lot of slack right now for having Penix only play in one preseason game this year, but I think after seeing what happened to JJ McCarthy and given Penix's injury history, I think they just decided to play it safe. Overall, I think the Falcons have set themselves up pretty nicely to win the NFC South this year. It's pretty much a two-team race between them and the Buccaneers. I don't really think the Saints and Panthers are going to be in contention this year, but the Falcons would be my choice to win it right now without a doubt. This team was 7-10 last year with Desmond Ridder at quarterback. Simply just adding Kirk Cousins makes them at least 3 wins better. Even if he was on one leg, he's that much better than Ridder. And they added Judon and Simmons and set themselves up for a nice future with Michael Penix. The Falcons have had a franchise-altering offseason. This team has been stuck in mediocrity ever since their Super Bowl loss to the Patriots in 2016. And it's been even worse since Matt Ryan left. But now it looks like the Falcons are finally threats to win at least a playoff game or two this year. But let me know what you guys think. Have the Falcons propelled themselves into being real threats in the NFC this year? Or do you think they're still going to be mediocre? Comment down below. And before you go, if you enjoyed this video, please make sure to hit that like and subscribe button, as it will go a long way in helping me create the best quality NFL content for all of you. And as always, thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.